Hello, everyone. Checking in week 5 of the course. We are reading Glenn Gray's essay, The Idea of Death and Existentialism. Just wanted to reinforce a couple things as we move through this thing. First, you'll see that if you are on the homepage, the modules of the Canvas site, that I am releasing the study question review videos as we move through the semester. Again, this is an important thing, I think, for you to do as a student, is to look at your own study question responses and then to look at these videos and to see whether we're on the same page. I would just really strongly suggest that, not only for studying for the final exam, but also for especially writing the essays. It's an important thing. So those things come up, and they are a resource that is available to you as we move through the course. We're looking at the second week of our exploration of the concept of mortality. We looked last week at Hans Jonas. This week, Glenn Gray's essay about existentialism. Again, this is about mortality. This is not really about death. It's about mortality. That is, how death actually affects the experience of a human being moving through life, like how it structures us, how it affects us, how it determines the way we live in a way. So again, it's a much more open thing than a fairly narrow discussion of the nature of death in Epicurus. However, one thing to keep in mind is that both of these essays move within, let's say, an Epicurean space. Neither of them has any gives any serious consideration to the idea of an afterlife. Death is the absolute end of the person. And that's just the basic assumption under which this moves. So even though this is a more open-ended or a more open discussion of human experience than Epicurus was, it still agrees with Epicurus that death is the absolute end of the person. That is incredibly important when it comes to understanding Glenn Gray's essay. That is, facing the truth about death from the existentialist point of view is essentially facing the truth of one's own finitude. And that means that we simply must accept that there is no such thing as a continued existence after death, that death is the absolute end of our experience. Again, this is from a certain point of view. We'll be looking at other points of view starting next week when we start looking at the case for immortality, you might say. But as it is, I would say that within existentialism, any thought that there is something beyond death is a form of escapism. There's a very interesting discussion, as you'll see, in Glenn Gray, of this idea of Geborgenheit, or safety. And one of the things that Gray says is that we human beings are seekers of comfort rather than truth. And that we seek this kind of safety, this Geborgenheit, this security in our lives. It's sort of just what we do, and that it's all phony. I mean, that it's all an attempt to escape the truth about ourselves. And that truth about ourselves is on the videos, but I just want to emphasize it as being incredibly important for this course. That truth about ourselves is the Heidegger idea that human existence is a being unto death, or a being towards death. That is, we can't really know ourselves and live authentically and live in truth, as the existentialists say, unless we accept our own mortality. And part of that is accepting true mortality. That is, we are finite beings. There is nothing beyond death. Human existence itself is a movement towards nothingness. And so the fundamental human condition is one of exposure and vulnerability. If you don't accept that, according to the existentialist, you're not really living in reality. You're not really living in truth. That's such a strong idea here. I just wanted to emphasize it. Also, I want to emphasize it because in a couple of weeks we'll start reading Paul Landsberg's The Experience of Death, and much of that work is an attempt to refute the existentialist view of death, at least the view that human existence is an existence towards death, and that human existence is ultimately finite. Paul Landsberg's Catholic philosophy, you might call it Catholic existentialism, is an attempt to refute that and to say that that's just a misunderstanding. But so keeping in mind that Heidegger's idea of human existence as a being towards death is something that will come up again later on in the course.